The cold stone roads of Rome have seen many victories. They have echoed with cheers, drums, and the proud footsteps of generals returning from war. But beneath that celebration lived another sound, one Rome never cared to remember. The sound of iron chains dragging across marble. The sound of silence forced onto women who once ruled nations. These were not ordinary prisoners. They were queens, women who had commanded armies, spoken laws, and carried the pride of their people. Yet when Rome defeated them, their crowns were taken first. Then their names. Then their dignity. In Rome, conquest was not complete until it was displayed. Broken bodies were not enough. Broken spirits were the true prize. Female rulers were not just defeated, they were carefully humiliated. Their suffering was turned into theater. Their pain became proof of Roman power. One queen was led through Rome in golden chains, alive but stripped of authority, her fate balanced between mercy and mockery. Another watched her daughters violated, her honor destroyed, until grief turned into fire and rebellion. This is not a story of random cruelty. This is a story of policy, of empire, of fear used as a weapon. What happens when a woman who once ruled freely is forced to walk as a warning to the world? What happens when humiliation becomes the spark for history-changing revenge? This is the story Rome tried to celebrate, but never wanted you to understand. Watch all the way to the end. There's so much valuable info waiting for you. Don't forget to subscribe, tap like, and share this video. Every bit of support helps our channel grow and inspires us to make even better videos for you. Rome did not believe in quiet endings. When the Roman Empire defeated an enemy, the war did not truly end on the battlefield. Victory was only complete when it was seen, felt, and feared. Cities could burn, armies could be destroyed, but the most powerful message was sent through people, especially through captured rulers. For Rome, a defeated king was a trophy. A defeated queen was something more dangerous. She was proof that even power held by a woman could be crushed. And Rome made sure everyone understood that lesson. Captured female rulers were not treated as noble enemies. They were stripped of their status the moment Roman hands touched them. Roman law allowed this without question. Once captured, a queen became spoils of war. That meant no legal protection, no royal respect, no mercy guaranteed. Everything she owned was taken. Her crown, her jewelry, her clothes, even her name could be erased. In official Roman records, she might be called nothing more than a barbarian woman. But Rome did not hide these women away. That would have been too kind. Instead, they were saved for the most important event of all, the triumph. A triumph was a massive public celebration held in Rome for a victorious general. Streets were decorated, crowds gathered, music played, soldiers marched, stolen treasures were displayed like prizes. And at the center of it all were the captives. Captured queens were forced to walk in front of cheering crowds. Chains were placed on their wrists and ankles. Sometimes the chains were made of gold, not out of kindness but mockery. Rome wanted to show that even beauty and wealth could not protect a ruler from Roman power. These women were made to walk slowly, so everyone could see them. Romans shouted insults. Children laughed. Poets wrote verses about their defeat. The humiliation was public, deliberate, and unforgettable. Rome believed fear traveled faster than armies. When foreign ambassadors watched a queen dragged through the streets, they carried that image back home. It was a warning. This is what happens when you resist Rome. For male rulers, death often came quickly. Execution after the triumph was common. But for women, Rome often chose something worse: survival without dignity. Living proof of defeat. This was not chaos. It was not emotion. It was planning. Roman leaders understood symbols. A fallen queen symbolized more than a lost war. She represented a broken nation, a silenced culture, and a warning written in flesh and memory. Yet Rome made one mistake. They believed humiliation ended resistance. They believed shame destroyed strength. They did not understand what humiliation could become when mixed with grief, rage, and a ruler's memory of freedom. And in two different corners of the empire, two queens would prove that Rome's cruelty could echo far beyond a single triumph. One would survive Rome's chains. The other would burn Rome's world in retu. Zenobia was not born to kneel. She ruled the desert kingdom of Palmyra, a powerful city that sat between Rome and the east. Her land controlled trade routes, wealth, and influence. Under her rule, Palmyra did not beg Rome for protection. It challenged Rome's authority openly. Zenobia spoke several languages. She studied history. She dressed like a Roman empress but ruled like a warrior. When her husband was killed, she did not step aside. She took control in the name of her young son and expanded her power further than anyone expected. For a moment, Rome was forced to watch. Zenobia's armies took Egypt. They claimed large parts of the eastern Roman provinces. Coins were minted with her image. Laws were spoken in her name. She did not declare herself Rome's servant. She behaved like Rome's equal. Rome could tolerate rebellion. What it could not tolerate was defiance that looked confident. In 272 CE, the Emperor Aurelian marched east. His legions were relentless. Palmyra fell after fierce resistance. Zenobia tried to escape across the desert, hoping to reach Persian allies. Roman cavalry caught her before she crossed the river. She was brought back alive. Rome debated her fate carefully. Killing Zenobia would end the threat, but it would also silence the story. Rome wanted her defeat remembered. In 274 CE, Zenobia was paraded through the streets of Rome during Aurelian's triumph. She wore heavy golden chains. The weight was intentional. Each step was slow, each movement painful. Rome wanted the crowd to see effort, not elegance. Yet something strange happened. Zenobia did not collapse. She did not beg. She did not scream. She walked. The crowd expected tears. They expected weakness. Instead, they saw a queen who refused to give Rome the satisfaction of visible despair. Her silence was unsettling. Even chained, she carried herself with dignity. Rome had planned to humiliate her, but Zenobia made humiliation difficult. After the triumph, many expected her execution. That was tradition, but Aurelian made a different choice. Zenobia was spared. She was given a villa near Rome. She lived under watch but in comfort. Some accounts say she married a Roman noble. Others say she lived quietly, educating children and discussing philosophy. Rome declared this mercy a victory. They said it proved Roman greatness. But the truth was simpler. Rome could not fully destroy Zenobia's image. Even in defeat, she remained a symbol of intelligence, courage, and resistance. Her survival turned her into a legend rather than a warning. Yet not every queen was allowed dignity in defeat. Far from Rome's marble streets, another woman faced Roman cruelty in a far darker form. She would not walk in chains through a cheering crowd. Her punishment would happen in silence, and it would ignite one of the bloodiest rebellions Rome ever faced. Boudica had once trusted Rome. She was the queen of the Iceni, a tribe in Britain. Her husband, King Prasutagus, believed cooperation would protect their people. He named the Roman emperor as co-heir to his kingdom, hoping Rome would respect the agreement after his death. Rome did not. When Prasutagus died in 60 CE, Roman officials ignored his wishes. They seized Iceni lands. They took property. They demanded money, and then they made an example. Boudica was summoned publicly. In front of her people, Roman soldiers stripped her authority away. She was flogged, not punished privately, but beaten openly, to break her spirit and to show others what resistance cost. Then Rome went further. Her daughters were assaulted by Roman soldiers. This was not chaos or lack of control. It was terror used deliberately. Rome believed that violating a queen's family would erase her power completely. But Rome misunderstood the woman they had humiliated. Boudica did not beg. She did not disappear. She gathered the Iceni and neighboring tribes. She stood before warriors and spoke not as a broken queen, but as a mother and a ruler robbed of everything. Her speech was simple and direct. She did not promise wealth. She promised justice. She reminded them of stolen land, broken laws, and abused families. She turned personal pain into shared rage. Britain exploded. Tens of thousands joined her. Roman cities burned. Camulodunum fell first. Londinium followed. Then Verulamium. Roman civilians were slaughtered. Temples collapsed. Symbols of Roman power were erased with fire and blood. For a moment, Rome lost control of Britain entirely. The rebellion shocked the empire. A woman, publicly humiliated, had nearly destroyed Roman rule in the province. The same policy meant to create fear had produced something worse: revenge. Eventually, Roman legions regrouped. They defeated Boudica's army in a brutal final battle. Facing capture, Boudica chose death. Some say poison, others say illness. Rome never displayed her body. There was no triumph, but Rome never forgot her. Boudica's rebellion forced Rome to change how it governed Britain. Officials were replaced. Policies softened. Fear had worked, but not in Rome's favor. Unlike Zenobia, Boudica was not allowed survival. Rome could not afford her living memory, but even in death, she became a symbol stronger than chains. One queen endured humiliation and lived. The other turned humiliation into destruction. Both exposed a truth Rome never admitted. Cruelty could control bodies, but it could not fully control what came next. Rome's empire stretched across continents, yet its approach to conquered queens was always the same. It was calculated, methodical, and terrifyingly effective. The treatment of female rulers was not left to chance or individual anger. It was part of a system designed to send a message that echoed far beyond a single city or battlefield. When a queen was captured, her life was technically spared, but only to maximize the spectacle of submission. She was stripped of authority, her court dismantled, her advisors killed or enslaved. Roman law gave generals the power to decide her fate entirely. There was no trial. There were no appeals. She became the empire's property, a living proof that Rome could control even the most powerful women. Every detail of the process was intended to humiliate. Captured queens were often dressed in clothing that mocked their former status. Rich silks could be turned into rags. Jewelry could be displayed upside down or piled in grotesque displays. Crowds were allowed, expected, to jeer, point, and shout insults. Children were encouraged to watch, learning early that defiance against Rome came at the highest cost. The triumphal processions themselves were performances of dominance. Soldiers carried the spoils of war: gold, spices, treasures, while the queen walked at the center, visible to every citizen. Some were chained in gold, like Zenobia. Others were stripped entirely of their dignity. Rome intended these events to imprint the image of submission into the memory of everyone who witnessed them. But the policy had its limits. Rome assumed fear would breed obedience, but it did not always. As Boudica had shown, humiliation could ignite fury instead of submission. Zenobia's silent strength had unsettled the crowds. Boudica's rage had consumed entire cities. Even centuries later, historians debated whether Rome's strategy of controlled cruelty was more dangerous than the battles it fought. The empire did not stop at public displays. Captured queens were often relocated to villas or estates in Italy. There, they were watched constantly. Their freedom was severely restricted. They could speak, read, or study, but only under surveillance. Letters could be censored, visitors monitored. Some were married off to Roman nobles, not as companions, but as tools of control, turning queens into symbols of assimilation rather than rulers in their own right. For the Roman public, these women were both cautionary tales and objects of fascination. Coins and statues were sometimes made to immortalize their defeat. Roman poets wrote verses about their capture, carefully balancing mockery and awe. Each story reinforced the empire's narrative. Power resisted Rome at one's peril. Yet Rome never accounted for the resilience of spirit. Even in captivity, queens found ways to resist. Zenobia retained her intellect and dignity. Boudica's memory fueled rebellion. The empire could dominate flesh, but not entirely spirit, pride, or legacy. Humiliation was Rome's tool, but it was also a gamble. It worked often enough to terrify, but every queen who survived, or whose story inspired rebellion, exposed the limits of empire. One misstep, one underestimation, and a city could burn, a dynasty could rise, or a legacy could defy history itself. Rome's chains were heavy, its triumphs were loud, its laws were strict, but the human heart, especially the heart of a queen, was not so easily subdued. The stories of Zenobia and Boudica were not merely chapters in history. They were warnings, lessons, and reminders that Rome could control bodies but never fully own the hearts of rulers. Across the empire, captured queens became symbols, some of fear, some of resistance, and some of impossible dignity. Zenobia's survival in a Roman villa was a quiet, living reminder that even in chains, power could take new forms. Though stripped of her kingdom, she maintained her intellect, her composure, and her influence, albeit in a subtler way. Philosophers, historians, and travelers visited her. She continued to discuss strategy, trade, and governance. To those who knew her story, Zenobia's chains were physical but not mental. In that sense, Rome had failed to destroy her essence. Boudica's story, however, became a different kind of legend. Her rebellion had burned cities, destroyed Roman symbols, and terrified governors. Though defeated militarily, she became immortal in the memory of her people. In towns and villages across Britain, mothers whispered her name to children as a symbol of courage. Every act of defiance against oppression, every story of rebellion, carried echoes of her fury. Rome's calculated cruelty had inadvertently created a hero, a figure larger than life whose spirit no emperor could contain. Both stories reveal an uncomfortable truth about power. Rome could conquer lands and armies, but when it attempted to conquer pride, justice, and identity, the results were unpredictable. The empire's meticulous planning of humiliation, intended to deter rebellion, sometimes created symbols that inspired it instead. This duality was dangerous yet fascinating. It showed that rulers, especially women, could wield influence even in apparent defeat. The heart, courage, and intelligence of a queen were forces Rome could never fully measure or control. Even in later centuries, their stories traveled far. Zenobia's tale became a study in endurance and subtle power, taught in histories as an example of clever leadership and dignity in captivity. Boudica's rebellion became the spark of legends, poems, and later, novels, an eternal testament to the fact that humiliation could ignite revolution. The world remembered them differently. Zenobia, the survivor; Boudica, the avenger. There is a lesson in their lives for every generation. Fear and violence can suppress the body, but they cannot fully suppress the will. Rome thought chains and public shame could end resistance. Sometimes they did. But when they failed, the consequences were far greater than mere military defeat. A queen's spirit could inspire people, ignite rebellions, and leave a mark on history stronger than any empire's walls. These women also remind us how dangerous underestimating the human spirit can be. Humiliation might seem absolute, chains might seem heavy, and victories might seem total. But even in the darkest moments, dignity and courage find ways to survive. A queen may bow in chains, but her story can walk free forever. Rome learned many lessons from its treatment of female rulers. It discovered that cruelty, when wielded without understanding, could produce not just fear, but legend. The empire's triumphs, once thought eternal, often became the canvas for stories of courage, defiance, and unbreakable will. In history, as in life, the strongest chains can sometimes forge the strongest spirits. By the time the Roman Empire had reached its height, it had captured countless cities, kings, and queens. Yet among all the victories, the stories of a few women refused to die quietly. Zenobia and Boudica were not just exceptions. They were warnings, reminders that the heart of a queen could resist even the mightiest empire. Zenobia lived in relative comfort in Rome, but her mind was never captive. She continued to command respect in subtle ways, influencing those around her. Though her kingdom was lost, her intellect and poise became her new realm. Scholars, nobles, and visitors came to her villa seeking wisdom, and she offered it, quietly shaping thought and strategy without lifting a sword. Rome had won the war, yet Zenobia had conquered a different kind of empire, the empire of respect and memory. Her chains were gold, but her spirit was untouchable. Boudica's story was far louder. The fire she set with grief and rage became a symbol of resistance for generations. Her rebellion reminded Rome, and all who heard the tale, that oppression could provoke devastation. The empire's attempt to erase her dignity had only made her legend burn brighter. The Iceni queen showed that humiliation could be transformed into powerful, terrifying action. Every ruined city, every overturned Roman standard, every victory in battle, even fleeting, was proof that spirit mattered more than chains. The Roman Empire thought it understood power. It had armies, laws, and triumphs. It believed victory was absolute when a queen was captured. Yet Zenobia and Boudica revealed a fundamental truth. Power is not only measured by what you control, but also by what you cannot destroy. A queen's courage, her mind, her memory, these could never fully be imprisoned. The empire's policy of calculated humiliation left scars, yes, but it also left legends. Across deserts, forests, and rivers, stories of these queens traveled. Leaders studied them, soldiers feared them, poets immortalized them. Even Rome itself, in its pride, could not contain the echoes of their defiance. Humiliation, Roman law, and chains were intended to break women. In practice, they did something unexpected. They created history. Zenobia's silent dignity inspired intellect and patience. Boudica's fury inspired courage and rebellion. Both proved that even in defeat, queens could teach the world lessons no emperor could legislate. And so, in every corner of the empire where these stories were told, the echo of chains and fire lived on. It whispered that strength was not always visible. It reminded rulers that cruelty might control bodies, but it could never fully control souls. Rome had tried to turn humiliation into power, but the true power lay with the women themselves. Zenobia and Boudica would forever remain proof that a queen's spirit is unbreakable, that the fire of resistance cannot be chained, and that history remembers those who refuse to bow. Even in silence, Even in chains, queens could speak louder than empires.